Part 9. Kicker surged forward, legs pumping with piston ferocity. Loaded cylinders spun, stopped, tripped, and spun again, restless for their targets. The objective was still distant on the grid map, a dim flash at the end of the ever-shifting maze. An urge to shake his head, to clear his thoughts, asserted itself, but the strapping within his helmet restrained any such movement. His view was fixed ahead. Only ahead. He flushed with rage, speeding the rush of stimulants into his blood, straining at his leash like a mad dog. Forward. Only forward. Rat moved along the resonated catwalk. It was narrow, which was a comfort of sorts. When the aliens attacked, they had little room for surprise. Her grid map indicated the location of the ventilation shaft that would bring deliverance. She struck another flare and let it spin into the flooring below. In the lazy drift of its light, a barrel shape clambered into the shifting shadows. Another hostile, en route to the royal chamber. The vermicular form froze, bulbous head alert, coiled, and sprang. As it caught the catwalk grating underfoot, Rat fired into the monster's face. Its crescentiform skull careened back and the alien dropped, bursting like a water balloon far below. Rat struck yet another flare and let it drop. Kicker's one-way trail to the Queen. The vent shaft was just ahead. Something dark and serpentine slithered into it. Rat brought her rifle up and stopped. A hiss from below, another behind. She heard Ear's warning in her headset. Hold tight. The flurry of movement ahead in the shaft entrance was met with the crack of rapid fire. Blue tracers burned through an alien, ruptured its spiny gristle as it exploded from the vent. Hustle your rat's ass, Ears barked, and Rat vaulted forward. A venomous tail struck at her side. She barely eluded its lethal blow. A cobalt rustling from beneath, now scrabbling for a purchase on the catwalk, reaching. Breathlessly, Rat leaped into the ventilation shaft as Leader strut into view, his pulse rifle already blazing into the monsters behind her as she dove to the flooring. She felt the heat, the ochre haze pitting her arms like hornet stings. "Move! Move!" Leader shouted, as they both bolted down the conduit. Ear's monitors had proved the success of the mission so far. No casualties, as yet. Rat and Leader moved away from the hive's center, skirting Shitkicker's path. Cleanup would begin soon. Smooth moves all the way. Ears paid special attention to Point, who already waited at home base. It was a rare moment, Point at rest. Ears watched, reached out, and touched the screen. "Yo, Jiminy," Point whispered. "Kicker is on his way." On another monitor stood Leader and Rat, backs to the wall, eyes locked on a passageway lined with cocooned victims. Leader stared at the cocoons, stony-faced. Steel rippled underfoot. The wall rumbled at their back. It was Shitklicker, following Rat's flares to the heart of the hive. 15 monitors with compound eyes followed Mach 16's path, consecutively recording the monolith's progress. His movements were perfection, a juggernaut in heat. Kicker, the unstoppable, picking up momentum with each step. Mach 16's eyes narrowed as he rounded the bend and spied the entrance to the hive proper, its surfaces sculpted by alien resins. His steps quickened, the wraparound pulse-fire extremities clacked and whirled. He rocked forward, the charge of the berserker, and let loose with the grenades. Within the unyielding armor, Kicker orgasmed. The pump action was invigorating, the fiery concussions intoxicating. The aliens poured out of the hive from every nook and cranny, tails and talons extended, and he cut through them mercilessly. The oxidizing agent in the 25mm shells created a fine, bracing haze of sulfuric blood, which weltered and hissed with every burst. Mock sucked the mist into his mouth, giving a flavor to his bloodlust. It burned and numbed his tongue like a drug, the taste of first blood. The grid's triad in Kicker's faceplate was obscured by a blur of cyanic armor, an alien on his head, clawing in the intruder's armor. A second one leaped onto the exoskeleton's back. He bellowed as he brought the electroprod into play, jolting each in turn to the resin floor to be splattered by pulse fire. Another dose of stimulants pumped into him, and he accelerated towards Rat's flares. Another indigo wave of drones descended on him in defense of their queen. There was an uncanny precision to their ranks as they erupted from the ceilings and floors, ebony talons and stingers flashing. But their strategies were ground underfoot and dissolved under fire. They were unable to slow him as he charged, guns and torch blazing, adorned with fountains of ichor. Kicker passed Rat's shattered cocoon, the marker's signal triggering another dose of adrenaline. He roared down the passageway in a shower of resinous splinters. Still, the creatures tore at him, leaped at him, scrabbled for a handhold on his armor. Jaws gaped at his view slits, the teeth within gnawing ineffectually. Mox's eyes widened with pleasure as the attackers were demolished with the flick of a finger, the flex of an arm. The juggernaut could not be contained, crashing into the royal chamber's steaming expanse in search of its heart. Kicker paused at its perimeter, his blood roiling. He gazed across the rows of freshly laid eggs as the throng of drones moved to surround him. The queen stood at the chamber's center, her bloated cerulean body suspended from the interior superstructure by thick, viscous bands of webbing. She turned her head to face him. Her cowl flared and her jaws distended. Her soldiers slithered beneath and above her, all turning to face the giant intruder who stood rocking in the debris. Despite their intelligence, their mobilized numbers, they could not save her from the ignoble intruder. It was over in seconds. Kicker roared at her spineless majesty as the grenade launchers pierced her in the throat, thorax and abdomen with 45mm charges, detonating on impact. The queen shuddered and fell. Her nearly severed head veered crazily, jaws akimbo, toothy tongue spewing her death throes. Her vitals slagged wetly into the mire of drones and eggs, the wellspring of the hive imploding into a seething, loathsome caviar. Shitkicker savoured the moment, his head pounding. The webbing still held her wriggling remains aloft, legs thrashing in staccato agony, until a round of 25mm fire brought it all down. There was no need to bother with the queen any longer. He dispassionately turned away. The hive froze, regarding the lethal intruder with cool, calculated awe. The silence may have lingered, had Kicker refrained from torching the entire chamber, royal court, fragged queen and all. Their hesitation shattered, the aliens retrenched to move behind him, scurrying to protect the fetal queens in the closest passageways. Kicker chased them, like ants, letting them lead him to primary cocoons. As the drones embraced them, or tore the human hosts free of the resins to carry them out of Mox's range, he roared like a lion and brought them all down. Oily smoke bellowed through the encrusted corridors, and the cries of the tortured hosts fed the flames.